Hey, what's going on, YouTube family? In this video, I'm gonna I wanted to talk about my story. Right? I had a lot of people ask me how I got started, how I even started doing all of this. So I'm just gonna kind of tell you guys my journey, right? How I started off, and I'm just gonna be walking through the warehouse while I tell the story. So yeah, guys, I went to college in New Jersey, Rutgers University, majored in computer information systems with a joint degree with Rutgers University Newark and NJIT. And I couldn't get a job out there in the tri-state area after I graduated. Man, I went to numerous interviews everywhere, couldn't get a job in tech. First job out of college I remember getting was a sales job or a cold calling job for a stock company out there in New Jersey. And man, I'd have to drive an hour just to get to work, and I was just doing these cold calls all day. I couldn't sell shit. I barely lasted a week and I quit. I just knew it wasn't for me. I had some buddies that were living in Dallas, Texas. Shout out to my boy Easy and Free Desmond, y'all. And they were selling auto insurance. And man, at this time we were like 21 years old, and these guys were making six figures already. And for me, just at that time, just to keep myself afloat, I was working at Circuit City, and I was crushing it there. Your boy was doing good, man. I was crushing it. Circuit City, at least I was making a cool, maybe 40,000, 50,000 back then, selling computers and selling warranties on computers and things like that. So I thought I was doing pretty decent for myself, and then these guys, I met them and just seeing how they were balling, man. Whenever they'd come to Jersey, these guys are all clean looking nice, got the Avirex jackets on, the Coogee sweaters and the Timberlands and all of that. They were doing really great, and I envied that. I wanted that too, right, for myself. And so I asked them to put me on, and so they invited me to come out. Oh, look at Bumblebee right there.
Wow.
Yeah, so they invited me to come out to Dallas and see what they were doing, and so I took them up on the opportunity, and I literally packed my bags, y'all, and flew out there for a weekend. I was just meant to spend a weekend out there just to kind of see how Dallas was, and I fell in love. I seen what they were doing. They already had houses, living really good. So that's how I got into auto insurance, right? And they hooked me up with the job where the company they were working at, Eastwood Insurance. I sold auto insurance for several years there. And then after I got enough information, got enough knowledge, I went out on my own. I went out to go start my own insurance agency selling auto insurance. I opened up the first one in Irving here in the Dallas, Texas area. And man, it was on North Beltline Road. I opened that one up, and we did great. We did amazingly well. That one was I was actually sharing a space with a buddy of mine that owned a tax practice. And so my little insurance shop was up front, and then his was in the back of the store. And so, I was just, man, flipping out those auto insurance policies. So I had to go get licensed. You need what they call a general lines property and casualty license to get into the auto insurance space. So I had that, and I was just doing great with insurance. And then I was making good money. I mean, I started, clearly doing at least six figures from that location. Then I was like, okay, bet, time to open up, time to expand, right? So I went out, branched out to Fort Worth off of Hewlin Bend, right there on, I think it was 820, I forget the highway. The highway and Hewlin Bend, right? We just opened up one in a shopping plaza there. That's a TGIF. I was in that right there. So we opened up one. Now that location, in hindsight, I shouldn't have opened that one up. That was very slow. I thought maybe I needed to go into these bigger shopping plazas versus my other one on Beltline in Irving was more of an urban center, like a beauty salon store next door and, a Fiesta across the street. So man, it was just always packed and had a lot of activity in it. So this one, not as much. So that one was really a big burden for us. And back then, anybody knows about advertising back in the days, we didn't have Facebook ads and all of this stuff we got today. Man, this was early 2000s, right? So back then, it was yellow page ads. And so and the only way to get into the yellow pages, like we'd have to do a half page or a full page. And you're paying almost $4,000 a month just for your ad, right? And the only way, you have to sign a contract with them too, And we were young entrepreneurs, man. The yellow page agents would bribe us, with NBA tickets, season tickets and stuff like that, or, for nice games or whatever. And then you'd go sign your life away. So, man, I was paying all of that, a lot of overhead. And then I opened up a third location too in Camp Wisdom, 4343 West Camp Wisdom Drive in Dallas. So we had 3 of those locations where we're doing auto insurance and then also doing income taxes too. So making good money off with all 3 of them until the economy started to crash. Things started getting really bad in the economy, and I kind of seen it come in, and I knew it was time to dip out. Plus, a major shift started to happen in the insurance industry that I knew it was time for me to dip because companies started going online. So the internet started getting more popular. Companies started going online. Geico came out and disrupted the market, right? And so the need for agents wasn't like it used to be, or brokers, right? Insurance brokers. Wasn't like it needed to be before. People just, the caveman Geico ads came out and people just go online and just buy insurance, right? So it's when I knew, okay, I need to probably dip out and start looking into other things. And then Progressive also started really marketing a lot and selling policies online. So I knew I had to dip. So that's when an opportunity came up in Nigeria. My dad was in Nigeria at the time. And so an opportunity came up to be able to go partnered with him and my sister and my cousin. And we were going to set up a telecommunications company, right? So a lot of the cell phone companies were coming out in Nigeria at the time. And it's a unique opportunity. It was still virgin ground. My sister happened to get a job for one of the telecommunication companies out there called Visa Phone. And she was in charge of site acquisitions. And so we came up with the idea, just brainstorming like, hey, why about we put, because she was constantly complaining about the biggest issue they were having was they'd build these cell phone towers and thieves would vandalize them, right? They would vandalize parts and take the generators and stuff like that from the towers. So they were having safety issues. Came up with the idea, hey, how about we put these towers inside of police stations, right? So came up with that unique selling proposition. And then I had to travel. I traveled back, bought a bunch of equipment, a GPS trial, they call them GPS navigators, not trackers, but navigators, right? Like the Garmin's. And I had to come back with all that equipment. And then kind of came up with a plan to go to all the telecommunication companies in the country, Visa Phone, MTN, they tease a lot, all the ones, Vodacom, all the ones we had there at the time, and go market our services to them, like, offering them discounts, bulk pricing on these sites. And then, also had to go to the police, Nigerian police force, the Inspector General of Police. At this time, guys, I'm like 26, 27 at the time, right? So I'm going to go speak to the Inspector General of Police and all of that stuff. And yeah, here now, this day and age, that might not be not a big deal in Nigeria. That was a lot. 26, 27 years old. If anybody's been to countries like Nigeria, you kind of know it's more of a baby boomer generation type. They're still in control. Don't really let the younger generations speak. You don't really respect them as much. But I was able to still go back there and, having these meetings with the cell phone companies, the senior level C-suite management there, pitching our services and going also to the police, establishing relationships with them. And then I set up a whole team out there and, that business flourished. We did really, really good. So I made my first $1 million. Got myself my Ferrari California, beautiful red peanut butter interior Ferrari California. It was a 2011. Got that in 2013. And the business was great, doing great. Also got into real estate at the time then too. So that was my next, the money money started coming in from that. I opened up 2 businesses. For my wife, I opened up an electronics store. There's an electronic manufacturer called LG. Life's Good. They're more of an international. They're not so big in the US, but everywhere else in the world. I'm sure you guys, if you're watching this from any other country, you guys know LG. I opened up an LG store. So it's all LG appliances and equipment like TVs, home theater systems and stuff like that. I also had a mix of things. I would also sell laptops. So I bring in a bunch of laptops, brand new laptops, HPs, Acer laptops, and all of that stuff, and I'll sell them there too. I was selling video game systems like your Xboxes, your PlayStations, and then cell phones. It was like a whole there's all 3 of them in there. Cell phones, kind of like a Best Buy. Because I used to work at Circuit City. For those of you guys that don't know, Circuit City is kind of like the Best Buy. Back then, Circuit City was even bigger than Best Buy, but Circuit City went out of business. So I kind of wanted to bring something like that. So literally have a Circuit City in Nigeria, kind of on a small scale. So that was the idea. So I had one of those. Obviously, and unfortunately, the biggest problem with that is, and now in hindsight, unfortunately out there's not much of OPM out there. You got to fund that crap yourself. So I had to fund that stuff myself. So there was a lot of capital sunk into that. Your manufacturers, they would float you money, but it was more like net 15. They're giving you maximum 15 days to credit, and you had to pay all that inventory, and only LG would do that. All the rest of the stuff I had to pay upfront cash. So I opened that, and I also opened up a restaurant. Anybody that's been up to Nigeria or Africa, like they're laid back people, kind of like if you've been to the islands or you've gone to Dominican Republic, Sosua and all that. You have all these little restaurants by the beach and stuff like that. People just sit down, bunch of chairs. People sit down, drink, eat fish, and just have a good time. And so I wanted to open up something like that. Funny enough, it was called La Fish, LAFISH. It's called La Fish. And it was just, it was fish, it was barbecue fish, it was drinks. And we had like a big projector outside so people can come watch soccer. Nigeria is a really big, the rest of the world, the biggest sport is soccer, right? They call it football. That's a whole debate for another video. But the real football, they'd say, right? And so like every Sunday when there's Premier League matches or Champions League matches, oh my goodness, this place we'll have hundreds of people in there. It's packed. And, so I had that. La Fish. If I have pictures, I'll put a lot of these things up. You guys kind of see the journey. And so I opened up La Fish and I had the electronics store. It was called Acura Electronics. It was named after my insurance agency, Acura Insurance, that I had here in Texas. So I opened up that. And then those went on for years too, right? Just generating good revenue, right? So it's kind of cash flowing at that point. I had staff. My restaurant alone employed almost over 30 people. We were doing really good. The electronics store probably had at least 5 employees. So at least for me too, I saw it as a way of giving back. And then the good thing about it too, and doing all of that, was at the time, inflation in Nigeria wasn't too bad. So the exchange rate was barely 130 naira to a dollar. So at least I was making good money there, right? It was, every month, every year, I was still making 6 figures. So I was good, right? Minimal work. I was happy. My telecommunication company, that was still bringing in 7 figures a year. So life was great. I lived 2 different states, Abuja, Imo State, where my dad was at. And then things started getting unsafe out there. I started kidnapping a lot where my dad lived at. So I had to move my entire family. I had to move to Abuja permanently. And so after a while, just being away, the restaurant started to suffer. The electronics store started to suffer just because I wasn't there as much anymore, right? So I eventually had to start shutting them down. I sold the restaurant to my cousin. And then the electronics store, I just kind of had a sale, closed everything off, and focused in Abuja, mostly my telecommunication business. And then I started getting into real estate, right? So I got into real estate 2 ways. First off, back in my dad's state where he lived at, we got to know the governor of the state, and it kind of just leveraged some of those connections. I went out there and went to the Ministry for Housing, and we kind of came up with a proposal, right? We were able to secure this massive plots of land. It was, hundreds of acres of land, right? And wanted to build a housing estate, right? And we wanted to do it in partnership with the government. So, so we kind of got in on that. So with the government, we were able to acquire the land, and then we would come in there, put the infrastructure, develop the whole place. That was a whole plan with that. And then sell off the plots. So that was my first foray into real estate. I also put up some pictures actually showing us breaking ground and stuff like that we were doing with that. And I still own plots out there till today. Just never developed it. This place, when we got it, it was all like forest. We had to clear the whole place up and start developing it. So that was my first foray into real estate. And we started to get more from the government. The government started giving us other projects when they saw we had proof of concept. We did good with that. So our firm called Hutton Trust, we started getting other contracts with the government where they would want to open up areas, right? It's the same thing they do here in the US. Government wants to open up a neighborhood. They might just give out the land to one of these big development companies, right? Like maybe D.R. Horton, they'll give them the land for free. The way it would work is they'll give them the land for free. The developer's meant to come in, develop all of that, transfer it back to the government. And then the developer gets to keep some of the plots. So you come in there, you clear, you parcelate the lands, you put the electricity and all of that stuff. And then in exchange, the government will give you choice plots in there, right? So let's say it's just 100 plots in there. When you're done with the development, the government will give you maybe 20 or 30 of the plots, right? And then you just hold on to them. And as the plots appreciate, obviously, because you've done all that work in there, the plots are worth a whole lot more. And that's how we were making our money. So we were doing that for years. So I had that going on. Then in Abuja, where I was living, I would just buy and sell plots of land, so making side money there too. And then I became what people call a loan shark. So I became a loan shark. I started to lend. And then I was getting all this cash, right? I was cash flowing a lot from all these businesses. And so I decided to become a loan shark. And because I found a lot of these rich guys, I was around a lot of rich friends, and they would always keep borrowing money from me. They'd always keep borrowing money from me. And I used to keep a lot of my business, what I was doing, on the hush hush, but they could never tell how I always had cash. And so I just started to lend money. I started to lend people money. And I saw myself doing this a lot for free. Here goes my baby right there. Parking lot. My other baby right there just came back from a rental. She doesn't get rented, that's mine. But yeah, so I was saying, so I was always lending out money to guy people for free, and half the time they don't pay me back. So I decided to form a business out of it, right? I hired staff. We got an office actually right by my house in Abuja. And I got a lawyer, paid a lawyer to get all the contracts together. And we started lending money. However, lending money out there works a little differently because, you can't really go arrest somebody if they don't pay you back. And you can't report on their credit or go to a collection agency if they don't pay you back. I had to take tangible assets, right, for collateral. Every loan was collateralized. So if I'm giving you, say, $10,000, you better give me collateral worth 30,000, right? Because I need to make sure you're paying me back, right? So that was the way it would work. So my forms of collateral I would always take would be either cars. I'll take cars. I would take watches, or I'll take gold jewelry. All right. So I would do this. I did this for years. And this for me was one of the best businesses I've ever done. It was completely passive. And it surprised me. It was a big eye opener because it surprised me. I never knew how much the people you see on TV, even people in government, politicians, how much they are over leveraged. I mean, they would always, I've heard about this whole OPM thing and all of that, and people using debt to go increase, go out there and go make more money. I mean, it was always business people, right? Maybe somebody owned a restaurant and he needed a float to expand or go buy inventory. And so they would give me their car or give me some kind of collateral or their watches so they can execute that project and then pay me off in a month. And over there, I would charge double-digit interest. So it was literally anywhere between 20% and 30% of interest per month. That was the beautiful thing about it. So it was a recurring revenue business that I was doing out there. I'd give somebody, say, $10,000 and you're getting $2,000 to $3,000 back every month in interest. And if they default, I was always lenient with them. If they default, I'd give them at least another month or two before I would just go ahead and I'll go sell their property, right? Because I need to always stay liquid so I can give my money out to the next person. So we were very strict with that. And so that was the beautiful thing about it all. People would give me cars. You don't pay me back. Your car is sold after maybe a month or two of being late. And then they were okay with that. They signed contracts. They agreed to that. They would sign a bill of sale ahead of time, giving me the right to sell their property if they defaulted after a certain period of time. And so there's never nothing like no violence, no threats, never none of that. All right. Never none of that. It was perfect. Made great money off of that. Now, two things. I never would take real estate as collateral because I got burnt doing that one time. Because you can't ever kick somebody out of a house. I think, what do they say? Possession is 9/10 of the law. So if someone is already, just same thing happens here in the States, right? If there's a hobo in your house, that's why you can't kick them out. The courts will always side with the person that has possession of the properties, actually living in there. Same thing back home too, right? Somebody could give you their house, but good luck kicking them out. Fs can't enforce that. So I would never take property. And man, that's how I got all these watches. Back then, I've never really been a watch guy, but I'd also put pictures up of watch collections I amassed over time. People giving that to me as collateral. And what we would do is when they would default, because I didn't care for watches, we'll break them down. There's this market, kind of like if you've been to Dubai, they have like the souk market. They also have like the souks. So they had like the gold souk. And we would take them. So literally the traders in Nigeria, a lot of them are Muslim. And so they also have connects in Dubai with the gold souk. And so I would take any gold I got. People maybe gave me gold Rolexes or whatever. I would take them. If the person defaulted, I would take them to my people. They would buy them from me. And literally the next day, in front of me, if there are diamonds in the watch or whatever, they're taking out all the diamonds immediately, breaking the whole entire watch down. They don't even care for the watch. They have to go melt it, go send it immediately to Dubai. It gets melted. I don't know what the freak they do with it. But that's how I would get rid of these watches so I can get back my cash. So I need to keep making money. Right, I need to be able to keep renting out my money so my money can go work for me. I have no need to keep watches and stuff, right? So I would just sell them, liquidate. If I get cars, I would just sell them, liquidate them, and keep. So that's what I would always do, and that's actually how I got my Ferrari too. Somebody defaulted on the loan. I gave them big money though, and they defaulted on that. Hindsight, I wish Buddy had he had several Lambos, Ferrari. I didn't know much about exotic cars at the time. I just took the Ferrari. He was willing to give me anything he had. I could have got his Aventador. And I believe I'd given him at the time maybe 50, 60,000. And he gave me a 2-year-old Ferrari. So hindsight, I should have gone for more. But yeah, that's kind of like what I was doing, guys. So doing that for several years. Then the economy in Nigeria really started to tank. Inflation got really bad. I told you guys earlier, it was like 130 Naira to $1. It started going up to almost 400 or 500, right? And so as you can see, you're making this, bringing in all this cash flow, but then when I would convert that to dollars, it was barely any money, right? So, that's when I figured, okay, it's time to leave. So my family and I kind of packed up our bags, came back. I had to dust off my degree, put a shirt and tie on, and got back into corporate America. I figured, all right, I made 7 figures before. I could do it again. And also something else happened too. So when I came back thinking, all right, cool. I still got my my telecommunications business, right? That was always paying me. It's like steady income every year, right? Several hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in passively, completely passively, very low expenses, low maintenance type business coming in regularly. And so I figured I still got that. I could transition back to the US with my family and just take life slow, right? So come back here, and then within a year of being here, unfortunately, they had a change at the head of the Nigerian police force, and the new inspector general, there's a deputy inspector general in there. He was about to retire. DIG Lakanu, I hate you for life. If anybody knows him, it's a criminal. DIG Lakanu, he was about to retire, and he hears about my company, something we're trying to keep on the hush-hush. And then he levies all kinds of false accusations against my company, that we're stealing money from the police and all this, that, and the third. All because he's retiring. He needed a retirement plan. He wanted to take my business. So he invites us to come speak to him. I'm in the United States already, so I send one of my staff over there, senior level staff. And typically when they invite us, 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10, they just want something, a bribe under the table, so they can, they never heard about us. They're wondering, who's this person making all this money here without us? And they want us to give them a piece of the pie. That's it. We can give them something and we continue doing our work. Because the way it would work is every time we would rent out these towers, we pay the police a percentage. Our company keeps a percentage too for our expenses. So that's the way it would always work. So we always kept to that agreement, had receipts of doing that. He didn't care. My staff showed him all the evidence that we had, and he locked up my staff. They locked him up in jail. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, it's the first time this ever happened. I'm like, okay, this guy must want a lot of money. What the freak is going on? And, we send more people to go beg and find out what's going on to release this guy. And he refuses to release my staff. And, starts asking for all kinds of documentation from our company. This guy is asking for a lot of crap and levying all these accusations. And literally within a week, 2 weeks, next thing I know, he actually sends my guy to prison. They take him to court in the middle of the night, find him guilty, and send him to prison. This guy's he's a high-level manager, hasn't done anything, and they lock him up in prison. Guy has a family, kids, all of that stuff. And all of this just spiraled out of control so quickly. And eventually he was able to get out. And that's when I really knew I lost the company. This DIG literally stole our company from us. And that's when I knew I was done with Nigeria, unfortunately. I just figured, okay, it's time to build it all back again here in the US, start from scratch, literally. And so I went back to corporate America. First off, I took a bunch of exams, tech and cyber exams. I got my CISA, CISA, Information Securities exam. I got my C-RISC, my CISSP. It's one of the hardest ones. Got my Security Plus exams. So I took a bunch of certification exams that I passed. And was able to get really good jobs in tech. And that's how I ended up in these big banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, USAA, as a tech auditor and tech and cyber operational risk manager. And so that's when also I saw some buddies of mine that were renting out cars and doing really good, renting out vehicles. And then I saw how they were making good money. I saw the holes in their game. And I'm like, man, I could do this. I know I could do this stuff. And I was tired of my job anyways, because my boss had promised me a raise. And man, I was looking forward to it. And I bust my behind to get it. And you will not believe this. Like, after busting my behind for years, only gave me a $2,000 raise. That's when I knew, okay, corporate America is definitely not for me. I'm not going to slave away. And because they promised me a title and a raise. I only got a $2,000 raise after busting my behind for almost 3 years. And so I figured, okay, I can't do this. Can't retire my moms this way. I can't even live comfortably off of this crap. And I think Chase at the time was probably paying me a total of like 120, something 130, bonus included. And that's when I quit. And I just went all in, guys. It was one of those things where it's like, I had to put myself in a corner mentally that like, this has to work or this has to work. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to commit. There is no plan B. I did not even renew any of my certifications. That's how much I believe that this had to work for me. So that way I don't ever look back. I took them all down from my wall. I used to have all my certifications on the wall. I took all of that stuff away. I didn't renew any of my memberships, any of those organizations. I just quit cold turkey and jumped in on my dreams. And then I started a car rental business, and literally I went out there first month. I bought like 9 cars. Not only that, I paid for a warehouse immediately. And I did all of that just put myself in that stress position where I had to make this work. And so it's kind of like, guys, how it all started. Where I started doing the cars and did the cars for a few years, and everybody started asking me, kept getting questions, how did you do this? How did you do this? And that's what prompted me to start the academy. So now the car rental business started to fund the academy and launched that. And then also I had a turf equipment business that I only used to do on the side while I was still in corporate America, selling these greens mowers. And now that the money was coming in from the car rental business, that gave me some cash flow too. And I was able to use that and also start to scale the turf equipment business. So, it's really opened up doors to a lot of opportunities. I also have a SaaS company. So I'm part owner. So just the car rentals alone, it's been able to give me income in several verticals. And that's what got me here to where I'm at today. Also now embarking on getting back into real estate development. Something I've always loved and wanted to do again. Gotten back into that. And I will be chronicling that journey here soon for all of you guys too. And yeah, guys, that's kind of like my journey. I kind of wanted to share that with you guys. I know this video was long, but I hope it was nice. Hope it was helpful. Just wanted to give you guys a raw, show you guys who I am, how I came to be what I am, why they call me Mike the Businessman. Guys, it's just something, I guess it's all I've ever seen, right? My dad was an entrepreneur. I never saw my dad do a 9 to 5. My mom was an entrepreneur. I never saw her do a 9 to 5. That's all I ever knew. All my uncles, everybody growing up, just entrepreneurs around us. Whether they were wealthy or whether they were poor as heck or not, they just knew it was that mentality that, you eat what you kill. You don't kill, you don't eat. It's just the way I grew up, all right? So, and that's who I am. Hope this video was helpful, guys. Thank you very much for listening. See you guys on the next one.